piece of advice you would give a bride, and what's the biggest mistake you would tell her to avoid?
The one biggest piece of advice I would tell the bride is to talk with her groom first before you go to the parents and build your priority list, what your top 2 or 3 most important areas are, and talk about what your don't list is, so that by the time you bring your wedding to your parents, whether or not they're helping to plan or pay, you still have the core parts of your day protected. Like there is no discussion about it. And that really gives you a better chance of having the day that you want. Because a lot of emotion goes into weddings and plans spin out of control. The second question you had was, what's the biggest mistake? Getting a sense of wanting to compete with others, I think. Wanting to compete with a sibling or a friend, and kind of abandoning the vision and the budget that you originally started with, that everybody was happy with, to the point where they feel like you kind of stepped away from an agreement. So make sure you keep yourself in the one sphere of your plans, and advise your groom, your maid of honor, your friends, say, help me keep my feet on the ground. Just come right out and say it, and that way you haven't broken any agreements, and the peace with the family members that exists long after the wedding is kept. So you have a day you love, and you keep the people you love. So.
My bit of advice is really to stay true to your passion, what really excites you, and not feel so pressured what everyone, your mother-in-law saying, or even your groom to be, I guess. Like, you want to respect everyone's wishes, but it becomes so overwhelming, and I think that it's something that you should remain very personal to what really excites you and what gets you going from an invitation perspective especially, and to really take risks and do something different. If you think black paper excites you, like, do it, make a statement. Don't be afraid of that. And, in my opinion, if mother-in-law has an issue with it, then, respectfully, she should understand that, and you can do your own thing. Another bit of advice too is to make sure that you book your invitations right away. All of your vendors, I think all of us can agree with that. Don't wait till the last minute. Like, try not to shop around too much, because it becomes very overwhelming. And to really go with your heart, who you connect with, that's really what's going to be the best experience, because you're working so closely with everybody for so long, and you don't want to wait and maybe potentially miss that opportunity to work with the person that's your first choice. So rush fees are never fun, so always start soon. And then the other question is what not to do. I think from an invitation perspective, make sure that you get your guest list together. I think it affects everyone down the line. If you if you're continually adding more and more people in, then to order invitations at a second stage is always more expensive than ordering it up front. So always order extra, and have a good idea of your head count. So then you're on top of things. You know what to say to everybody else down the line.
I have a question, actually. Are we going to have on the side, let's say, scheduling tools? Because I think that there's going to be a lot of innovation in that area.
I'll let Aaron answer that.
We'll let you know later.
Okay. One of the surprises that can help both the vendor and the bride to address issues of scheduling and other tools. So I'm not going to give yes or no questions. I'll tell you why. Because each one of the experts is supposed to contribute a tip per week for the whole year. So every week it will change. That means that if the bride logs into Weddzilla.com, she'll be able to find out the many tips. So we don't want to give it away so quickly. And I'm excited to hear about all the other tips. We started writing them, and I wrote 52 in 1 hour, and I had more to say. It's also, all of us have so much to say about the industry and our client that we don't have a way to express it. So for us, Weddzilla is a great service to express ourselves. It's almost like now, it's not enough just to have a website which is less interactive. We need a social, how do you call it, social networks, or social media to interact with our clients. And it's true, it's beyond boundaries, beyond states, and even internationally. So it's a way for us to develop a dialogue. So they have to log in and do it.
Good answer.
Thanks for the coffee.
It's working. It's working.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I think the one thing that I always encourage them to do, and I try to tell them in my first meeting with them, is to let's all be like extremely honest with each other. I think honesty is so important in the relationship you develop with the bride and groom and their families and their aunts and their uncles and their stepmothers and their, you know, yeah, everything. But because, I mean, I want to give them the best product I can possibly give them. And they need to tell me what they want to spend. So they need to budget in advance. And of course, we can tweak that around, but don't tell me that you have, you know, or don't act like you have $200,000 to spend when you really only have $50,000 to spend. Because I would rather give you an amazing product for $50,000. But you're going to need to be honest with me and tell me that that's what you have to spend. Because every bride wants this fairy tale wedding. I think, you know, all the girls grew up with that. I kind of did too. But I think that, you know, so just be honest with your plan and the other vendors that your partners that you're working with. And I think the biggest mistake that they tend to make, that I see, and someone mentioned this earlier, is they succumb to peer pressure. I mean, I have seen brides have shown me, oh, look what she's doing. I mean, she goes on some social site or whatever. Do you think I should have cocktails or beer and wine at my reception? I'm like, are you kidding? You really ask people that are attending your wedding that question? I think they do it on some of those sites. It's crazy. I mean, you should do what you want to do. It's your day. You know, it's your passion. And again, like we talked about, it's your brand. It's what you're throwing out there to people. So don't succumb to peer pressure. That's the biggest mistake that most brides tend to do.
You don't want to look back.
And regret, yeah.
It's like, why did I make that decision?
Right. I don't care what anybody says, I like Jordan almonds.
Yeah.
Right? So let's have Jordan almonds. Let's have the best display of Jordan almonds ever in the world. Let's have Jordan almonds.
Exactly.
Right?
Go for it.
And then you come to me.
Peer pressure.
After the almonds. The Jordan almonds.
Except for when it comes to getting fed.
Right. I think I'm going to start with the negative because, you know, what I see is 4 weeks, 3 weeks is the procrastinating bride who expect me to be a genie and to transform their body into something that, you know, and I hate to say to throw the magazines away, you know, we're very active in the media that way, but to, like I said earlier, to take this time in your
But 4
life.
weeks is a long time.
No,
I mean,
it's not about.
I'll be honest and say, I went to the plastic surgeon and it took like 3 hours.
Lifestyle change. So that's the biggest, you know, I've actually had a bride-to-be the day of the wedding take her bouquet and put a weight in it to get the jacket.